Good morning, everybody. I'm going to do a quick sound check. We had some sound problems at the end of the last show. Really weird. It like somebody muted us or something. So give me a heads up if you guys can hear me speaking. We'll go ahead and get started. Well, we're going to go back in time today and recap what happened with Notre Dame. Notre Dame, some people pronounce it. The cathedral in Paris, so much surrounding that particular cathedral. The Isle of Man. Underneath was found the torque rings. The torque rings from which all of these people's worship has originated. Let's take a look at the torque rings and the pillar of the boatman on the Isle of Man underneath the Notre Dame Cathedral. Let me take a look here. This is Cernunnos, the Celtic god, the one that is worshipped by these people, the horned god. This is Pan. It's everything. This is the devil. This is Wicca. Now, one of the only places where they found images of this horned god with the torque rings was at the Pillar of the Boatman, basically underneath the Notre Dame Cathedral. There's a small island in the middle of the river, and this is where this all began. Some of the oldest pictures of this. Now, what are these torque rings? Well, torque rings symbolize the circulation of this energy. And we know that this is exactly what CERN is, taking particles and smashing them. Well, a lot of the wiring and tubing is torqued. It basically flows around in a circle in a 17-mile length of passageway underground in the shape of a spiral torque. And this is the clue that they are trying to open a portal, because portals are basically torque rings, aren't they? They're tornadic, I guess is the word, spinning in a vortex. Now, there are many biblical examples of these vortexes opening. Pillars of fire by night, pillars of cloud by day. This is how the Most High led the Ark of the Covenant in the wilderness. Pillars are tornadoes. Elijah, when Elijah was taken up, tornadoes. You can look up tempest in the Bible, and you can see probably about a dozen mentions of any time an angel or the Most High would appear, you would hear this mention of some kind of tornado, which is a portal. Now, don't get scared off by that word. All it is a descriptive term of the connection between this realm and the other realm. That's all it is. And so here is Cernunnos. And the reason why I bring up Cernunnos here is because this takes us back to what was just discovered underneath Notre Dame Cathedral. Now, there was a big fire. Let's take a look at that. There was a big fire at Notre Dame, and this is what set all these events into motion. Many of you will remember this, and many of you will remember that we found the fire in Btwn. We did a side-by-side of this cathedral falling over, and it matched almost exactly what was in Btwn. Now, why is that a problem? Well, apparently Btwn came out in 2012, long before this fire. So how did these people know that the spire would fall over almost exactly the same way it did years after Btwn? How did they know that? Well, the Bible talks about divination, the looking glass, seeing through to the other side. Can these people see the future? I don't know that, but the Bible forbids looking into the future. This is why we don't try to predict things on this channel. We follow the guidance of the Holy Spirit, and if something just happens to come to pass that we talked about, that's, I guess you call prophecy. and I'm not calling myself a prophet. But let's see if Pet Goat comes up and somebody immortalized this side by side. Now, this was a discovery made on this channel, and it's been copied, which is good because the word's getting out. But look at this. Here's one particular person that copied it. Good job. Here is the actual spire falling over. And next to it is an animated film that came out several years before this happened. 2019, 2012. And look at the side-by-side. It's almost exact, as if these people saw what was going to happen before it happened. Now, there's no room for error here. There's no room for speculation. It is what it is. The question is, what will you do with the information? What does this mean to you? And this is what we're going to talk about today. What does all this mean? Now, then we fast forward to earlier this year, and a particular sarcophagus was found. Inside the sarcophagus, it took them a lot of time to open this thing up finally. They were holding off and holding off. They were probably coming up with their cover story. They wouldn't tell us what was going on with this. And finally, it was revealed after we had done our own speculation based on the research. We told you that these lead-lined coffins that were found as they were excavating underneath Notre Dame, basically doing repairs to the fire and all this, we told you that lead-lined coffins were something unusual for royalty. And remember, we talked about Prince Charles and his ties to the vampires. This was before the Queen of England died, before he took the kingship. We were making observations about the royal family and their ties to Dracula, and why it is that all of them are buried in lead caskets, which again is not indicative of royalty, because lead is a very cheap metal. We also discussed a story about the bride of a vampire who was buried in a lead casket by the locals, and they said that they did it to contain her so that her undead corpse could not rise again. The Bible talks about those seeking death and not finding it. Well, they finally got around to opening this thing, and it was a literal horror movie. The thing had an elongated skull. Now, the researchers say that this elongated skull was from the binding of the skull at childhood. And I'm just not buying that cover story. Now, I need to make a correction to yesterday's show, because yesterday I was like, I had never heard of an elongated skull being found in Europe. But apparently it's actually a thing. Here are some pictures of some people in Europe with elongated skulls. But was this really from the binding of the skull? I don't believe it was. I believe this was a bloodline of some kind. So, this is shocking, you guys. Because we're also told that this thing was found without any teeth. Let's read about what was found here and try to piece together the truth out of what is being reported. Was it found with no teeth, or were the teeth removed to hide something? Archaeologists reveal secrets of two sarcophagi found after fire at Notre Dame in Paris. Notre Dame Cathedral, an iconic Paris landmark, caught fire in April 2019. Amid the ashes of the nearly destroyed building, archaeologists discovered two sarcophagi that have been buried underneath the church for centuries. So make sure you guys are with me and make sure our sound's okay. We'll continue on with this shocking story. All right. Looks like you guys can all hear me. Very good. I don't see anybody saying you can't hear me, so let's keep going with this. Yes, please thumbs up this video. Who were these people? How did they come to be buried at such a significant site? After careful study, researchers have revealed the secrets of these sarcophagi. France's National Institute of Preventive Archaeological Research said in a news release Friday, December 9th, the lead sarcophagi were found buried at the transept, or cross-shaped portion of Notre Dame, between February and April 2022 as part of a preventative excavation ahead of the future restoration efforts. The coffins were taken to Toulouse University Hospital for further study. Cathedral burials are a long-standing practice, and lead coffins are primarily reserved for the elite. So they're telling you they're the elite. Both sarcophagi were relatively well preserved, but neither contained organic material because of punctures that allowed air inside, researchers said. Now, there's a contradiction here because they did find organic material inside, which are the skeletons that you just saw that I showed you on the screen here. The coffins, which varied in shape, age, and construction, belong to distinct archaeological layers. One sarcophagus belonged to Antoine de la Porte, who died on Christmas Eve, 1710. Oh, so just in time for Christmas, right? According to the plaque on the coffin, experts said de la Porte, whose coffin was nicknamed the Jubilee Cannon, right? The Queen's Jubilee. She just died this year. He died at the age of 83. During his life, he helped pay for the choir of the Notre Dame Cathedral. Inside his coffin, researchers found 3 medals with his face shown in profile, bones, and hair. The sarcophagus contains the remnants of a flower crown, now a collection of dried leaves and flowers around the coffin's head level, and more dried leaves at the abdomen level, French researchers said, and photos show. The unknown coffin may date back to the 14th century, The Guardian reported. The deceased identity may never be known. However, he has been nicknamed Le Cavalier since analysis of his pelvic bones suggests he was a horseman, the outlet reported. Now notice how they haven't even got to the most important part of the story. You had to click read more, and it's like they're covering it up already. The illustrious stranger likely suffered from a chronic disease that destroyed his teeth and skull deformation caused by wearing a head wrapping as a baby. So this is the second one, I think they're talking about here. Eric Crusby, professor of biological anthropology at the University of Toulouse, said at a news conference, he would have had a difficult end of life. Look at this. I mean, this is about as creepy as it gets. Here you can see the side view of the skull. They've cut it open, obviously. Why did they cut the skull open? Why would they do that? Right? What were they looking for? If it was just skull binding, why is it cut open? Both men were clearly important. Well, let's take a look here. That cut could have happened before it was buried. We don't know. It doesn't tell us here, which would even add to the mystery, right? Because if it was just simple skull deformation, the people who buried him, why would they need to cut the skull open? They might have cut it open because they were curious about what was inside, right? Both men were clearly important, as their burial places at the heart of Notre Dame Cathedral indicate. The rediscovery of their coffins reveals a few more of the iconic site's secrets. So, crazy. Now let's read the comments here, because some people realize that there was a contradiction in the story here. Howard says both sarcophagi were relatively well preserved, but neither contained organic material because of the punctures that allowed air inside, researchers said. Then they proceed to describe the organic material found in both coffins, including bone, hair, and flower remnants. I'll thumbs that up. Unbelievable. So, what is really going on here? Well, this thing looks like it came out of the pit, doesn't it? A demon from the pit. And the cover-ups continue. Now, let's get into some other stories for today, because this next story is just as important as the last one that we just covered. Because according to these people, they say that they have now discovered star power, is the way they describe it. Fusion energy. Listen to what this lady has to say. This is chilling.
Talk about fusion, combining two particles into one. Last week at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory in California, scientists at the National Ignition Facility achieved fusion ignition. And that is creating more energy from fusion reactions than the energy used to start the process. It's the first time it has ever been done in a laboratory, anywhere in the world. Simply put, this is one of the most impressive scientific feats of the 21st century. Or, as the president might say, right? I do think he probably did say this is a BFD. Researchers at Livermore and around the world have been working on this moment for more than 60 years.
So understand what she's describing here would typically cause a nuclear bomb to go off. But they found a way to harness that energy so that it does not explode, and that they can actually use the energy. Let's keep listening here, because what you're going to hear next is going to put you on your heels.
So, what does this accomplishment do? Two things. First, it strengthens our national security.
You've got to be kidding me. They found free energy, and the first thing she says is it's going to strengthen our national security. So now we can threaten the rest of the world because we have the power.
Because it opens a new realm for maintaining a safe, secure, and effective nuclear deterrent in an age where we do not have nuclear testing.
You've got to be kidding me.
Ignition allows us to replicate, for the first time, certain conditions that are found only in the stars and
we have the power. Sorry.
The sun. And the second thing it does, of course, is that this milestone moves us one significant step closer
to the electric prison kingdom.
The possibility of zero carbon, abundant fusion energy powering our society. If we can advance fusion energy, we could use it to produce clean electricity, transportation fuels, power heavy industry, so much more.
Enslave people and make them do what we want under threat of turning off their power.
It would be like adding a power drill to our toolbox in building this clean energy economy.
So there you go. You heard it with your own ears. Now let's unpack this a little bit. Because not only does this mean that these people will have control over all energy and consolidate it under this star power, that this also means that there will be no reason to keep gas and coal and other independent sources of energy around. They'll just justify and say, you don't need that anymore. Let's consolidate it all under this. Now, a lot of people think this is a good thing. Oh, this is so exciting. But do you think that they're going to let us have this free energy? Do you think we're going to be at their mercy? They're going to charge whatever they want. Let's see what else they're saying about this announcement here. Now, other people are concerned about what she just said. Let's read what they say here. here's the whitewashed version, and then I'll tell you and show you what the Daily Beast reported on and their concerns about what she said. So they've successfully produced a nuclear fusion reaction that creates a net energy gain. She hailed the event as one of the most impressive scientific feats of the 21st century. The same energy that powers the sun and every other star in the universe. So they're billing this as star power. Being able to harness and replicate it means that humankind could one day tap an almost limitless source of energy that wouldn't contribute to the climate crisis. So it's all about climate change. Now, what is going on with the stars? Well, Enoch talks about the stars. In the book of Enoch, it says that the righteous and the angels have a star in heaven that shines as brightly as the righteousness of that angel or person. The book of Daniel seems to quote from the book of Enoch, talking about the stars in the heaven and the shining of those stars and the righteousness. So, what is this that they're talking about here? Well, this is the devil's knockoff, isn't it? He's going to take the star and the brilliance of the star and he's going to transform that into our enslavement. He shall transform himself into an angel of light. This is what's happening here, you guys. This will spell the end for anybody who wants to resist. So, they're billing this as we've been able to harness the power of the sun. This makes them gods with a little g, doesn't it? They get into some more of this technology, but let's see what the Daily Beast has to say about this. The one thing that everyone's ignoring about the fusion energy breakthrough. At 1 a.m. Pacific Time, December 5th, the National Ignition Facility at Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, California, created a nuclear fusion without a thermonuclear detonation. The experiment, heralded in the Department of Energy's own release as history-making and announced Tuesday by Secretary of Energy Jennifer Granholm, converted 2 megajoules of laser energy into 3.15 megajoules of energy from fusion, all produced and recorded and spent in less than a blink of an eye. It is at once a meaningful scientific achievement and one whose entire reason for being rests inside the long-term work of sustaining an arsenal of oblivion. Our thermonuclear weapons have fusion ignition that takes place in our weapons, so studying fusion ignition is something we do to support the stockpile stewardship program, says this guy at Lawrence Livermore Laboratory. The stockpile stewardship in question refers to the continued existence of U.S. nuclear arsenal, the second largest in the world. Nuclear weapons, though bound to their origin in World War II and development throughout the Cold War, are an ever-present fact of modern geopolitics. They are an enduring threat. We're using the output from these really cool science experiments to actually test materials for stewardship applications. So, they exist. And it was kind of ignored in this recent discovery, in this recent announcement. So, where does this bring us? Well, I do not believe that the world will win through thermonuclear detonation, even though that fear is being pushed at every corner by the elite, because the Bible doesn't say that that's how the world's going to end. Okay? It says that Jesus is going to come back. There's going to be a big war, Armageddon. It says very specifically the things that are going to happen. A third of the oceans are going to die before that. A third of the green grass will be burned up. I guess you could say a third of the earth could blow up through nuclear detonation, but not the whole earth, according to the book of Revelation. So, here we are. Let's check in with you guys and move on to other things, because guess what? If you skip your COVID vaccine, you are now a danger on the road. Yeah, according to Fortune, people who skip their COVID vaccine are at higher risk of traffic accidents, according to a new study. Another reason for your friends and family to hate you for not getting the vaccine, right? More division. if you passed on getting the COVID vaccine, you might be a lot more likely to get into a car crash. Or at least those are the findings of a new study. I mean, seriously, if you eat a cheeseburger, you're more likely to get in a car crash while you're driving. 72% more likely to be involved in a severe traffic crash. Can you believe this? Now, let's go down here. I want to read the call. Look at all the comments here. 6,000 comments. Wow. Let's not forget that in science, correlation is not causation. I would say that since a lower percentage of teenagers got smack-vaccinated, but teenagers are more likely to be in wrecks, that would skew the pretty much worthless data to begin with. Wow. So, unfortunately, a lot of people are going to believe this. Welcome to 2022, 2023, you guys. Now, this next story is a little bit troubling. It's actually a lot of bit troubling. As the powers that be continue to try to stoke the racial divide, try to stoke the race war. It's all coming from the top down. People on our level, me and you, middle class, lower middle class, upper middle class, we all get along with each other. It's the people above that are pushing this stuff. Reparations to black people for being black. They can keep their check. I don't want it. This sole purpose of this is to create division among races, many of which were also treated unfairly during these periods. It wasn't just black people. Guess what they used to call Italian and Irish people when they came over to America? They were treated like slaves too. Called vicious names. No one wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about the Native Americans and what they went through. This is a slippery slope because you can't buy your way out of history's mistakes. And if you start paying some people back, other people are going to feel left out, aren't they? Which is going to cause them to resent the people that got paid. But this is the intent of why they're doing this. This is how they keep black people on the side of the left and alienated from not understanding the truth about the world we live in, which is that the right and the left are all on the same side. All you can do with history's mistakes is to learn from it and move forward. You can't continue to stoke racial resentment from both sides. Let's read about what's going on in Oakland, California. After more than a year delving into history and studies to make its case for reparation to California descendants of enslaved black people, a first-in-nation task force begins deliberations Wednesday to quantify how financial compensation might be calculated and what might be required to prove eligibility. Now, what's the best thing that you can do when reading a story like this? Well, the last thing you should do is be upset at black people, because that's what they want. The best thing you can do is understand the right-left paradigm and be angry at the people who are making this a law and pushing this forward. Now, my great-great-grandmother was a slave. Do I want their money? No, I do not. Because I was given lots of opportunity in this life, as was my mother and her mother before her. Did they experience, maybe my grandmother experienced some racism? But we've moved forward from that and had an equal shake at this life. At least here. But this is unbelievable. Let's keep reading. Conversations for how to determine payments are in the early stages, with task force members acknowledging that they have more questions than answers. Economists hired by the task force are seeking guidance in 5 harms experienced by black people: government taking of property, devaluation of black-owned businesses, housing discrimination and homelessness, mass incarceration, and over-policing and health. California's task force met Wednesday at City Hall, Oakland, a city that was the birthplace of the Black Panthers, but has lost some of its African American population as rising home prices forced people out. You guys, we don't have a race problem in this country. We have an elite problem and a greed problem of people making all the money and then enslaving all of us, black, white, purple, red, and green. That's the problem we have in this country. We're supposed to live in the greatest country in the world, and yet we still have a working class of poor people. We're giving away billions of dollars to other countries, probably approaching trillions over the last 10 years, and we still have a working class poor people. In other words, you can go to work 50 hours a week and you still won't be able to afford a place to live in many cities in this country. That should not be a thing in a country like this. Now, I'm speaking outside of the paradigm, so sometimes it's hard for people to grasp onto these concepts. And we don't even realize what we should be demanding. We should be demanding a huge cut to all of this other spending that we're doing, and we should shore up our country. Now, that doesn't mean giving away money to people. It means that people that are willing to work 40, 50 hours a week should be okay, shouldn't they? They should be okay. I don't know how you make them okay, but they should be okay. They shouldn't have to worry about where they live. They shouldn't feel unsafe. They shouldn't have their property stolen and broken into. They should be able to pay their bills within reason. They should be able to have a warm place to sleep without worrying how much they're going to turn their thermostat on in the winter or in the keep cool in the summer. If we're supposed to be the greatest country in the world, that should just be a thing. Right? I think so. I think everybody would agree with that. At least stop giving money away to other people in other countries. And these programs of let's fly into space. I don't want to fly into space. I want to wait for Jesus to come. I don't care what's out there. Especially if it's going to cost trillions of dollars. I just don't care what's out there. So let's keep going with this. Sorry for the rant, but my heart breaks for not just for me, for all of you guys that are struggling going through this, and you have to read this stuff. So we need a paradigm shift, don't we? Now, let's keep going with this. Here's the next story. Business Insider, former CEO of Twitter, is now backpedaling. He's busted, according to Elon Musk. They've disclosed everything that Twitter was doing. We all knew this was happening. We tried to tell everybody, not just me, but a lot of channels were trying to tell everybody what was going on, how we were getting shadow banned. Oh, but no one believed us. Oh, you guys are crying wolf. That's not true. Why would they do that to you? That's not true. That's not true. Now you know how they basically, I guess, pigeonhole truth. Now, Elon Musk is no better because he's pigeonholed truth to the back into the right-left paradigm, as Trump has. In other words, they've shored up the right-left paradigm. And Trump is now aligned with Elon Musk, and that was all intentional, so that they could shore up the right-left paradigm. So that you'll continue to give these people a pass. You'll give Elon Musk a pass on Neuralink and sending rockets into space and the electric kingdom of slavery that's coming with the electric cars. You'll give Trump a pass on making smack the nations and killing the small businesses or allowing that to happen, taking people's guns by allowing people to tattletale on each other. The national ID called Real ID, which is unprecedented in a free country like this. The national ID is the precursor to tyranny. It always has been, where they take log of all of the people in a country. This is what Germany did before everything went to hell in a handbasket there. We look the other way because we're in the right-left paradigm. We need to hold these people accountable for everything they do on the right and the left. So, Dorsey's coming clean, supposedly. but he's passing the buck saying, oh, some people bought us out in such and such year, and they had controlling interest in the company and stake in Twitter, so they're the ones that started making the rules. So he's passing the buck here, but he's saying, I'd do it all again because there's no way we could have let Donald Trump come back to the presidency. Okay? So this is how they're framing this, and all this is going to do is enrage the right. They're going to say, see, we told you so. And then they're going to run back in because of the way this whole thing is set up, and they're going to run back in and vote for Trump again. See, he should have won. We knew it all along. Now we have to bring him back. Make no mistake, Trump is not over yet. They're depicting him as over, but he ain't over. So, this was a stunt. Dorsey coming clean. All this is a stunt. And the right-left paradigm contest has now been firmly established with its extreme and intentional division to move you to choose one side. And in the chaos, the real truth of all this is lost because it's all about the contest. The contest of the fear of the other side winning. And then the truth gets lost in the hysteria of emotion instead of being grounded in the evidence of truth. Now, DeSantis has his cheerleaders. Here's an AP article. Another big nothing sandwich. This is virtue signaling. DeSantis seeks a grand jury investigation of the Btwn smack scenes. Wait a minute. You mean the ones that he allowed in his state? You can't have it both ways. You can't cut the sandwich both ways. You can't allow people in your state to take it and then later say, we need to seek a grand jury investigation. Doesn't work that way, does it? But this is how they try to slice this sandwich. It's ridiculous on its face. If you really felt this way about this, why would you let it into your state? Oh, it's a choice. It's a choice. Okay, so you put... Now, I'm speaking in hypotheticals here. I'm not trying to draw a connection between the Btwn smack the nation and what I'm about to say, but let's move on to another aspect of this. I'm going to put acid in the food section of the supermarket, and it's a choice whether or not you want to buy that. And I'm going to put on that acid bottle, safe for consumption. I think I've made my point. Now, what is DeSantis saying? Well, calling for an investigation. It'll probably never happen, and it'll never bring anyone to justice because it never does. Now, these are the same tactics that Trump used throughout his presidency. Virtue signaling. He'll make very, very bizarre promises that he has no intentions of honoring, like death penalty for drug dealers, which several of you pointed out, that he was one of the top presidents letting all these people out of prison, pardoning a bunch of these people. So you pardon a drug dealer, and then in the next sentence you say the death penalty for drug dealers? What are you talking about? He talked about eradicating the Constitution when he claims to stand for it. These people have the Janus spirit. The Janus spirit has emerged. Say one thing, do another. Say one thing, do another. Now, yesterday we covered, over the last week, Superman versus Batman. In yesterday's show, I showed you the death of Superman. Well, this Superman actually spiritually died. And it was announced on the anniversary of I Am Legend on December 14th. After we had already been talking about the death of Superman. This is unbelievable, you guys. Reality is catching up to this channel as Henry Cavill who played Superman, will not return. He spiritually was killed off. They're choosing a different guy. They chose the day we did that video to announce this. Henry Cavill will not return as Superman. He's buried in the cornfield. Batman versus Superman. Batman wins. And those are the headlines I had for you today. Now tomorrow, actually Sunday, will be a huge show because we will be talking about World War Z, a film that came out long before the pandemic. Yet, humanity is clinging to life on aircraft carrier number 19. And Jerry, who plays the character, Brad Pitt plays the character Jerry, means the spear. And we've talked about the tip of the spear, haven't we? And what it is. It is the pokey poke. Apollo's pokey poke that brings the disease and brings the quote-unquote cure. Now, I say quote-unquote because someone called me out. They're like, you need to be clear about that. Okay, quote-unquote cure. And many of you will remember the film World War Z. We took another look at it. And not only does Jerry's name mean the spear, but in the film, he actually attaches a bayonet, a spear, to the top of his gun, and he gets pierced in the side by a spear, and he uses a spear to cut a lady's arm off who is infected with the virus. So we're going to dig into World War Z on Sunday. I'm going to start that show at 9 a.m. Central Time to give you guys some time to wake up because I really want all of you guys to show up to that show. Welcome back and welcome to all the new people that came to the channel. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We are not a right-left paradigm channel. We expose the left and the right. But because Trump is deceiving the most Christians and people of faith, we tend to expose him a little bit more than we do Biden. We all know who Biden is. He's on the left. We know what the left stands for. That's a slam dunk. We already know that they spend too much money and what they want to do with babies in the womb. We already know all that. But the worst is the devil you know, the one standing in front of you that no one can see. And so that's why we expose a lot of this stuff. Both sides are working together to advance globalism. But they're telling us that there are two sides, but it's really not true. The globalism has been advanced with real ID and national ID and all the other things I mentioned earlier in the show. Yes, please thumbs up the video. And you guys want to do a little Q&A before we pop off of here? Because I won't be seeing you guys tomorrow. Yes, DeSantis is in the club too. They're all in the club. Anyone that gets to the top's in the club. What do you go to? Yale, Harvard, one of the two? Do not be deceived. When you pick one side, you're picking incorrectly. You're supposed to stay out of this and stick to your morals and be the change that you want to see in this life. But understand the devil rules this world. The Bible says it over and over again. This is why the devil was able to offer Jesus the kingdoms of the world. How do you think he was able to offer him the kingdoms of the world? Because he owns them. He owns them all. And what did Jesus say? I want no part of it. You can keep it because my kingdom's coming. It's going to crush your kingdom in the head. And that kingdom will never be brought to ruin. Do not put faith in these men, right or left. Stay out of this process because as soon as you vote, you give your consent to whatever that person does. You're basically swearing an oath. When you vote, you swear an oath to that person. And they can do whatever they want because you allowed it to happen. Or were part of the reason why it was allowed to happen. So, what else do we have here? Casey, you should do a video on Galen Winter, nuclear physicist, expose the fake nuclear bombs. Okay. Crush. Yes, Tonette. DeSantis is with the Sanhedrin. Hallelujah. Leave the Constitution for social credit system. It's possible. That could be where all this is headed. Okay. Uh-oh, Troy's pancakes are burning. Ooh, that sounds delicious. We have some pancakes. Maybe I'll make some pancakes today. Thank you guys for being obedient to the Most High. Right, left is just a game, two wings of the same bird of prey. Yes. As we speak, all the people that bought the crypto lie, who thought that this was some kind of free currency that they wouldn't have to pay taxes on, are now on the chopping block. Mark my words. It's happening now and will into this tax season. They will be going after your civil assets. How do I know this? Because Trump was instrumental in passing civil asset forfeiture for non-felons. And now let me break that down for you so you can understand what's happening here. If you made money in crypto, and it's interesting because Trump's trading cards, he says you can pay with crypto. What a hypocrite. What a hypocrite. Hypocrypto, we should say. So here's what's going on. If you made, let's say you made $20,000 in crypto because you were a faithful crypto investor and you bought Bitcoin, 4 years ago, and you cashed it out and you bought all the lies that said, oh, you don't have to pay taxes on this. It's free currency. Well, guess what? All these 80,000 IRS agents, guess what? You go to the top of the list. You go to the top of the list. And now under civil asset forfeiture, you don't have to be a drug dealer for the federal government to come after you for not paying taxes on that crypto. So, I made $20,000 and I bought a new car with it. Well, guess what? Bah, bah, bah. Here comes the IRS. Give us that new car that you bought with crypto. Yes, kryptonite. Interesting connection, Lori. Superman and his kryptonite. Wow. So, I'm praying for those people, but we tried to warn you that crypto was a scam. It was another honey trap to draw you into a false sense of security. All the Q people were pushing the crypto. Telling you lies about it, telling you everything's safe. Don't worry, federal government can't touch it. And now what's happening? It's been personally named by the IRS that they will be going after crypto people who didn't pay their federal taxes and all your property that you bought with your crypto. So, my people perish from lack of knowledge. We stab ourselves all over our body with many pains when you seek after riches. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. And I'm upset at some of these Christian channels that are still pushing the crypto lie. But it is what it is. Everybody will be held accountable for their actions in the end. So, what can you do? Because it's not all gloom and doom. Well, you carefully and slowly prepare. You do what Noah did. The days of Noah will be like the end times. What did Noah do? It took him a very long time to build the ark, didn't it? A very long time. Years, actually. And what was inside the ark? If we want to learn a lesson from Noah's story. Things that he needed to survive on the ark, right? Real things. Not fictitious gold, fictitious crypto. Real things. Saws, hammers, food, right? Well-built structure. His own area, secure area atop the waters. We can learn a lesson from these structures that God had his people build. The ark, as well as the tabernacle. Okay, impervious to the beast system around it. Right? Tangible goods. Yes, Craig. What's going to be valuable in the last days? A saw, a hammer, something to split wood with, something to kill and eat food with, a very well-built structure that has nothing attached to it, no mortgage, something simple, yet warm, well insulated. Think that way going into the end times. This is how we should be thinking. Not bound to a particular career or job, even though right now that's a great thing. But in the last days, there won't be any security. We already saw them dip their toes in the water when they threatened, and our president allowed the powers that be to threaten you that you could not come back to work unless you got poked. Teachers, nurses. How did he allow that to happen? Oh, okay, so he doesn't have control of the states. There we go again, in the right-left paradigm. You're the president, national security, make it happen. Do what you have to do. There would have been people breaking down the doors to support him had he stood up like a real president should have stood up. To stop the carnage. Well, do you want to see 2.0 version of that as we enter into the last days, where they, you think you've got it all buttoned up, you think you got your mortgage all buttoned up because you got a career, and then all of a sudden that day comes and they can take it all away because you didn't prepare for the last days? That is what I'm trying to get people to wake up to. Let's get rid of this troll bot. Jeez, every time YouTube does nothing. So welcome to the new reality. Anyway, I love you guys, and that's a good time to end the show here. Glad everybody showed up. Hope you guys have a great day. Take care and be safe, and I'll see you on Sunday with World War Z.